Am I satisfied with my life? Um, what a question. Are you satisfied with your life? No, I'm not. For me, it's a judgmental position to take to be satisfied with one's life or not. Or if I'm not satisfied with something in my life and I can do something about it, then I'm going to do something about it. Like if I don't like my job, then I'll quit my job. I'm not going to stay in my job because I'm scared that I'm not going to find something else. That's really the only thing that would keep us in a situation, and then we start thinking, oh, but I have no choice. And so I don't know, other than those kind of circumstances, being dissatisfied with one's life is kind of like a um yeah, judgmental attitude, because it's not like I'm a spectator who has some kind of value judgment about, like, how's my life going. Life is a gift. If you don't see that, then it just becomes some, yeah, everything else is meaningless, really. I meant, really, are you happy, like really happy? Ha- Happiness and sadness are emotions. Yeah, they complement each other. So if you ask me, are you really sad? I would say it depends in which circumstance. I don't know. This topic isn't some promise of happiness. It's more like, because a promise of happiness would assume that there is some position that is unhappy, which is real. And that's the whole point. And that's the beauty about talking about this subject, is that there is no compromise with uh, the way things really are. There is no unfulfilledness in the way things really are. By nature, there is no unfulfilledness. That's all. That's the message, if there can be such a thing as a message. If there is no unfulfilledness, then why do I feel really unfulfilled? That I really don't know. It's not logical to feel unfulfilled if there is no unfulfilledness. Yes, it is logical, because there can be such a thing as delusion, like illusion, right? That's part of what's possible. We can see things on the if the what are they called? What are they called? I can't remember what it's called. But if you're in the desert and you see flickering on the horizon because of the heat, and you see things that aren't really there, that's possible, right? So because of assumptions, things that we take to be true as a culture, as a species, mental concepts that we take to be true cause something that we then describe as this: I'm feeling unfulfilled. It's very logical. If we live our life under the burden of false ideas and mistaken beliefs, then yeah, of course, they weigh on us. They make us depressed, because they press down on us, literally, psychologically. You were talking once about people living even nowadays in a natural environment, like tribes or something like that. Uh-huh. I think what I was saying was that there have been, and still are to some extent, societies that have been completely free, you know, like to it was in the context of this idea that there's now a tendency, more and more people are waking up and all this garbage. um it's a Yeah, I wonder if their way of living is better than ours in terms of naturalness. No, it's not really a solution, to go and, I mean, okay, there is a natural desire to live in a natural environment, right? What do people who can afford it, what do? They buy themselves a countryside house. Some people, yeah, some people quit their jobs and go and live somewhere in the country and, I don't know, buy a rundown shed on a piece of land and then build it up and grow their vegetables. And yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't say anything in terms of better, because really naturalness is more about the way we live. And I don't mean by that, I don't mean an action, a way we live. I don't mean some kind of attitude or like, believing in the fact that, or the idea that it's better to eat organic, or, shouldn't eat meat, or this is good for your health, or this is how you should exercise, or stuff like that. I don't mean that. I mean that it's an inner thing. If we like living according to our nature, that would be living naturally. Yeah. But yeah, then of course there can be, I mean, I certainly would have lived in a kind of more natural environment, like lots of green forest and things like that. And I like that, and I want to do that again one day. But other if it really depends on your, this is why I mean living according to one's nature, because so many things are involved, like what our passion is, what our talents are, what we want to express. So someone who has a genius for, I don't know, particle physics, or I don't know, someone who loves uh, urban planning or urban architecture or something, right? They're not going to go and live in a forest somewhere. Or someone who plays sports professionally because they just love it. So it depends. It's not that you can't. It's not like living in a natural environment is better in that sense. Cities are exciting too, big cities, like, yeah. It's not like everything man-made is somehow bad. It's more about those things that get claimed as somehow special. It's like, so the gifts of technology, for example, of progress, yeah, technological progress, that's a gift. But when it gets claimed, what I mean by that is when it's used as proof that humans are special and more intelligent and therefore somehow superior to other forms of life. Then it gets perverted. Then um, that's when it wouldn't be That's when it wouldn't be healthy. By nature, you mean inner kingdom, not forests and green lands. If I mean like our own nature, yes. But otherwise, nature, yeah, forest and green lands. Sure. You can't separate the two, because we are like forests, green land, animals, plants. We are one of the animals. That's how it is. That's the no separation thing. As soon as we think that, because of the fact that like we can think about all these things, right? We can talk about all these things as concepts. As soon as we like get it, it's like getting on some train tracks, as if like as soon as we get onto those tracks and join this thought, whether consciously or not, if we've let it slip in through conditioning, yeah, if we've accepted it or even embraced it, especially, okay, if we've accepted it, if slipped in, that's one thing. But if we've like enthusiastically embraced it, this view that humans are special because of their ability to think, then even our thinking gets messed up. It gets skewed. We don't see things the way they are anymore. That's the dissatisfaction. it's like then the thought is just divorced from everything else, and it's just abstract concepts projecting them onto everything all the time. And then we see, it's like seeing with as if having like some colored lenses, and then we see everything in that color. And pretty dark color usually. Maybe stupid question, but would you change anything that you did in life? No. It's a stupid question in the sense like that, not in a personal way. In the sense that it's an impossibility anyway, right? It's like just the simplest logic about the thing. So it doesn't mean, I mean, I think like lots of frustration, and frustration can be very natural, can come from the fact that there is, or comes from the fact that there is claiming around us. Like getting back in time, if that was possible. Yeah, but it's not, so I'm not interested. Really, literally, like I wouldn't even go there. And no, if even if, then no. So I can't say that I don't experience frustration, you know? Like I really like sports, for example. But and I could have pursued a couple of things more focus with more focus and played at a high level. But I have too many other things that I'm interested in. Yeah, and even to just go for one sport and not play others, it's not for me. So I could say that because an opportunity to play is not always so obvious. Yeah. So moving to another country where maybe that sport doesn't get played very much, or the worst thing is trying to find a partner to play tennis, for example, trying to find a team to play basketball with, or whatever else, other sports. It's not always easy, because it's not always easy to find people who don't overestimate themselves. You know what I mean? Like who have no desire to really learn fundamentals, but who just want the kind of the it's the same in any context. It's the same in non-duality. You have people who listen to non-duality a lot, and then they think, now I've got it, and then they start talking about it, and all they're doing is sending people in the wrong direction. And it's a lot. It's like maybe 80% of what there is on YouTube, maybe more, 90%, you know. So there's a lot of that, and that's just claiming. That happens in all areas of life. So I have experienced it a lot in sports. If I play with someone or against someone who has played very high level, some national team or some league champions, or like professional players at a good level, not always, but often they have a humility about them because they don't have anything to prove. Yeah. Whereas if you play with recreational players, there's a lot of bravado, a lot of like overestimating themselves, unwillingness to learn any fundamentals, and in the end, just not having it, just ends up not being fun. So it's not easy to find people. And what I enjoy about sports is learning the skills and adding to and so on. Yeah, but that becomes difficult when you aren't in a professional environment, because there you have coaches, you have it's your job. You go to a facility, you practice, then you have games, so there's a development. But in a non-professional environment, that's not easy. And a lot has to do with the fact that the recreational games that you find, it's not that they're not good enough. There's loads of talent, but people use it to That would be the claiming of the personal talent. Yeah, they will use the talent to big themselves up, to like get big-headed about something, about it, to compensate for feelings of low self-esteem or fuck knows whatever. Yeah. Or they invent talent that they don't have, and same. It's always the low self-esteem will always create the opposite. Would always create vanity and pride and things, because it's like an effort to push away that low self-esteem, to compensate for it. Yeah, because it's so unbearable. Oh, I've got to. But yeah, and people, it happens in different ways. People either they'll do that, or they'll blame themselves, and then they'll throw that blame onto others, because that self-blame becomes unbearable as well. So yeah, in terms of like going back to changing anything, obviously not, but for sure it would be nice if there wasn't all this claiming. Of course, that's like a natural desire, right? So yeah, I don't know. But as for, if you mean it in any sense, as for mistakes or anything, that would, I wouldn't even consider that. Like, it's all part of life. Like, why go back and change anything? Why? To what? For what? Like, to be a better person? What kind of nonsense is that? I have a problem with accepting injustice in reality. I mean, for example, in Ukraine, there are a lot of good people tragically treated by war. I feel anger, helplessness, sadness, and more. Okay. What would be my advice about what? Accepting the injustice? What is my stance on such things? Are you helping people in such conditions? I don't consider help. What's my stance on such things? I don't have a stance on such things. I mean, it's common sense that the the tragedy of war, that's, why, how would I have a stance on that? The only stance I could think of is to be against it or to be for it. To be for it is ludicrous, and to be against it is common sense. So I can't tell you a stance that I have. And helping people, I do offer one-to-one sessions, but it's kind of to, whatever. Can't call it help, because no one really needs help, but whatever insight or usefulness there is, it comes up through the conversation. And if I get an impression or a sense of something, then obviously I'll share it if I feel it's appropriate. Yeah, I mean, it can be, there is a usefulness, because as I said before, you might have heard, because there is so much misunderstanding and confusion about what this topic is really saying, is really about. What are the implications, let's say, of the fact that there are not two things? Yeah, it's very hijacked, it's very prideful, it's very misinformed, a lot of it, and it leads people in the wrong direction. So to clarify something like that, that could be something useful, to strip away the nonsense. Yeah. So sure, you're welcome to do that. You're welcome to, if you have a question, you have a question. If you tell me that there's a whole lot of emotions, that's not a question. I don't know what to do with that. Those are, like, emotions are natural. Why would we not want a whole lot of emotions? You know? Could be anything. Maybe it's just maybe you just have laboring under a mistaken idea that you shouldn't have emotions. I'm just saying as a way, as an example, yeah, for argument's sake. Like, some kind of emotionless state, but who wants that? That would just be the result of repressed emotions, and even then it wouldn't be really an emotional state.